sees the means of production, and the like and subscribe button. One of the most important ongoing battles right now, one of the most important, I guess, like, fronts in the fight against the Trump administration, it's the judicial one, right? Like, right now, there are like 50 million lawsuits that have been filed against the Trump administration, and the general tone of these lawsuits is that the lawyers from the, the Attorney General's office show up, and they're like, we have no idea what's going on. I just work here. Ruben. Seems to keep happening. So basically, the Trump administration's not doing very well in these lawsuits, is my point. Now, how much is that actually going to matter when things could be appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court could say, like, well, who cares, actually? I don't know. We kind of need to find out. But these circumstances are mounting. Here are the two main cases right now. So, the Trump administration, well, I'll just read the title. Trump administration argues judge can't order return of man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. So basically, this is an innocent man was sent over to El Salvador. He was an innocent family man. We took a look at this literally last stream. The judge is like, okay, this is obviously a mistake. The administration doesn't even have any proof. They admit it was an administrative mistake that he was sent over. Like, they have admitted that he was not meant to be sent over. Now, take a look at this. A spokeswoman for the DHS responded to the judge's order to return this man.
The American people should know who this individual is. He's not some Maryland father, as the mainstream media will make you believe. He's actually a member of MS-13 and was involved in human trafficking.
These statements are not alleged even in the legal filings against him. She literally just made this up on air. This isn't even like a source, you need to prove it thing. They didn't even make this claim. She just flat out like, oh, brown guy, MS-13, yeah. And she should be legally liable for this, by the way. Like, in the long run, depending on how things play out, if that man ever escapes El Salvador, in a sane country, this is like an easy legal filing. Anyway, here's Stephen Miller, one of the big insiders in the Trump administration, and essentially arguing that there is no way for us to take back this innocent man who has been sent to an El Salvadorian gulag because we don't have any jurisdiction over El Salvador, which is bullshit. You can absolutely, if we are the ones who sent him there, we can take him back. And it would not be the first time that we have mistakenly deported people and then had them brought back. We have done that before. Usually the Attorney General or the DHS or whatever works with the country that we sent the falsely deported man to, and we work to bring them back. That is what normally happens. They are pretending they can't do that because the real position of the Trump administration is that they should be able to deport anyone for any reason with no due process, and then once they've done it, sorry, no takesies backsies. What do you think about the theory that he's dead and that's why they can't get him back? Nope, definitely not true. They know he's not dead and they don't want him back because him coming back would mean that the US reporters get to access him, and then he gets to go on a news run talking about how he was tortured, probably raped, humiliated in this gulag for nothing. If he is freed, he also gets to start suing people in the Trump administration, which he should do if he ever gets free, which he might not. But I don't think he's dead. It would be pretty stupid of Bukele to allow the American prisoners sent to El Salvador to die. That could open up a lot of, like, problems for him in the future. Unless he's been instructed to kill them, in which case it's no longer a gulag, it's a death camp. But if that's happening, we don't know yet. We'll see. Anyway, isn't this crazy? Like, for her to, like, they have already admitted that him being sent to El Salvador was an administrative mistake. So for a DHS rep to be like, oh, actually, it's because he checks notes. He, like, I don't know, he, like, human trafficked or something. That's, like, Jesus Christ, man. They'll just say anything. They'll contradict themselves, like, at a moment's notice. They don't care. So I'm really interested in seeing where this case goes, because the judge presiding over it, Paula Zinnes, is already mulling, like, directing accusations of bad faith against the Trump administration, which could, you know, potentially escalate very rapidly. So far, no judge acting against the Trump administration has ruled against them in a way that would compel arrest, you know? Saying, like, like you're acting in contempt of the court or whatever, you know, we will, we need to send marshals to you, like you're under arrest. That hasn't happened yet. Yeah, so far it's all been compliant shit. But man, when it starts getting to contempt, that's when we really reach the test. Because you know for a fact right now, they're talking about what to do about this judge. Because there is no way the Trump administration is like, oh yeah, we'll like destroy the country, send people to a foreign gulag, you know, deport people, free, suspend due process. And they're not talking about dealing with judges who step against the administration. They've been talking about judicial overreach for a long time. That's not new. But the law remains the law. What are they going to do about it? Are they going to just ignore it? Are they going to come up with bullshit charges against the judge? They're going to try to deport the judge? They're going to arrest the judge? What are they going to do? Is the judge going to be disappeared or have an accident? Again, look, the White House has already acknowledged that the deportation of this man was an administrative error. And in spite of that,
it's unbelievable. The
reps from the executive branch are reconstructing false accusations. Government lawyers say they have no control over Obrego Garcia and no authority to arrange for his return any more than they would have the power to follow a court order commanding them to effectuate the end of the war in Ukraine or a return to the hostages from Gaza. Remarkable. Getting the prisoner that we deported falsely over to El Salvador in a prison that we literally paid El Salvador to take him. We literally are working with Bukele to host these prisoners in an off-country camp, in a black site, essentially. That would be like us ending a war. This is the kind of shit that leads to like rulings in bad faith. It's not just this one either. Remember Boasberg, the one who ordered the plane that was taking migrants down to El Salvador to be turned around, and then the Trump administration refused to follow his order, and then since he's been demanding information from the Trump administration on whether or not they directly refused his order, and they keep denying him over and over and over. This one's getting up too. It's getting a little spooky. U.S. District Judge James Jeb Boasberg in Washington pressed a Justice Department lawyer to explain the government's actions in a high-stakes court hearing to determine whether the administration ignored his orders to turn around planes that were carrying deportees to El Salvador. The judge said he could issue a ruling as soon as next week on whether there are grounds to find anyone in contempt of court for defying the court order. If I was Boasberg, by the way, I know I've said this before, but I'd be like issuing these rulings from like a series of unmarked cars traveling across the country, being abandoned and then switching to another car, like a network of like sympathetic mercenaries escorting me from place to place. I'd be issuing these rulings from the moon, basically. We are getting really, really, really close to like a breaking point. The case has become a flashpoint in a battle between the judiciary and the Trump administration amid mounting White House frustrations over court orders blocking key parts of the president's sweeping agenda. Trump has called for the judge's impeachment, while the Justice Department has argued the judge is overstepping his authority. This is objectively incorrect. I don't feel the need to argue against this, obviously, right? Any more so than I would feel the need to argue that like some specific ruling from Adolf Hitler's government would have been incorrect on the grounds that Jews did not in fact like poison the water supply or lead to a poor crop ruling or cause the rain to fall on the day of Hitler's inauguration. It's just factually incorrect. Uves, you're annoying me because you keep adding me, but I will acknowledge that you have, there is a point that you're making that is worth being made. There is an incentive for federal judges to not rule directly against the government in cases like this, because if they don't rule in favor of the government, if they don't drop it, essentially, you run into the real question being like, the president saying, what are you going to do about it? Because that is the line right there between the DOJ being annoyed and sending lawyers and like an actual standoff with like guns and stuff. Because once you start issuing or finding people in contempt of court, issuing court orders, you know, accusing people of defying your ruling, stuff like that, then you're getting into the, you know, and there's an incentive for him not to do that because, and it's possible, I don't want to discount this, right? But it's possible that you could get more done by partially ruling against the Trump administration than by forcing their hand. It's like when you corner a wounded animal, right? If you put the federal government in a position where the only way to respond to Judge Boasberg is to just ignore him and disappear him, then they might do it, right? Whereas if you give the Trump administration a bunch of weaker outs where they have to keep conceding fault and conceding fault and conceding fault, even if they're not actually held to account properly, maybe you avoid the worst case scenario. Maybe you avoid pushing him into a corner where he feels the need to do that. Again, if I was Boasberg, I'd be offering these rulings from like the surface of the moon. I'd be a little nervous. This doesn't have anything to do with the Civil War. This would be more about like, I guess the artifice of legality. That would be the end of the judiciary, essentially, the federal judiciary. It would be an end to fake half-assed proceduralism and the beginning of essentially martial law. Like the ultimate endpoint of the unitary executive theory. You're no longer like pretending to abide by these pre-existing systems. You're now just openly acknowledging like, well, no, we are supreme above the law. We are above the land. Now, functionally, by the way, we are already in that position, right? But there's a big difference between a system where a corrupt leader pretends to abide by those laws and one in which they no longer feel they have to. Big difference. As accelerationists, don't we want Boasberg to go all in? Well, accelerationism as like it's a little more complicated than that. I think that you could make a fair argument for either case. Right now, it seems like Boasberg is not backing off. So, you know, we'll see how things go. You don't want to accelerate into a wall, after all. It's quite scary. These are the two cases to follow right now. Because these are the two cases that right now the DOJ is responding to that are the closest to leading to that kind of crisis. Little video snippet. That's kind of a creepy photo. Boasberg does look kind of creepy in general, though.
All right, we turn now to the Trump administration standoff with a federal judge. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg now saying that the government appears to have acted in bad faith. This comes after the hearing wrapped just moments ago to determine whether or not the government violated his court order to stop the deportation flights, two of them with alleged members of a gang, to a mega prison in El Salvador. President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act last month. It's a wartime authority used to deport non-citizens with little to no due process by arguing that the Venezuelan gang is a, quote, hybrid criminal state that he says is invading the country.
Sure,
Joining me for more is ABC News Justice reporter Alex Mallon and ABC News senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. And Alex, the hearing just wrapped here. What are your main takeaways?
I mean, it was really a fascinating hearing, Kana. I mean, Judge Boasberg really laid it on the government, and it really seemed like he's leaning towards initiating contempt proceedings. Now, what that's going to look like, we don't know. But no
one knows, by the way, to be clear. No one has any idea what that's going to look like. This is very much like everyone related to the case, everyone under Boasberg's jurisdiction, everyone in his court, everyone is like every night staying up till 3 a.m. trembling, clutching a whiskey bottle with like a loaded revolver sitting on the kitchen table. It's like, this is a completely unprecedented. No, this has never happened before, Sully. Not in this way.
Basically tried to drill down the timeline of the government and that March 15th, that Saturday hearing where he initiated this verbal order to the government to say if there are currently any planes in the air with migrants that are being deported under the Alien Enemies Act, you need to turn those around. The government has maintained both that they complied with a written order that was later issued by Judge Boasberg, and also they said that his jurisdiction was largely moot once the planes were out of international waters. This hearing, though, Judge Boasberg said that the rushed process that the administration engaged in to put those, over 200 migrants on those planes and get them to that supermax prison in El Salvador seemed to be deliberately and done in bad faith. He said that it seemed to be designed to basically dodge any court order that he issued that day. And so he said that at the conclusion of that hearing that he was going to consider whether the administration, there was a probable cause that they did violate his order deliberately. He said he will be issuing some kind of written order on that sometime likely next week.
Okay, so Devin, depending on what that written order says.
The other thing that I'm curious about is that, to my understanding, I think that individual members of the Department of Justice are immune to contempt sanctions for official acts, which this would definitely count as because they're operating under like presidential sanction. I don't know. No one knows what this looks like, man. Has there Okay, when was the last time, if ever, that any member of the DOJ was held in contempt for an official act, if ever, in any sense? Is there even like a close version of this? Anything even close to this? I wonder if this judge has ever fought as hard as this to protect American citizens than he is trying to protect gang members from another country here illegally. Thanks, man. This guy must be getting paid well from Soros. I love my democracy. I love my bot swarm on social media. We'll see how it goes. Why would someone that dumb even watch Vaush? They didn't. I was reading YouTube comments from the video we were looking at. But I'm sure that because a lot of that is bot driven, there is stuff like that in my YouTube comment section as well. Individual members of the DOJ are not exempt from criminal or civil contempt. If I am, I feel like I remember hearing that they were. I don't know, man. We'll find out what happens when whatever happens, happens. I guess is my position on this. It's not like I'm capable of changing the outcome of any of this. Tempest, are you there? Okay, that last segment should definitely go out at the end of stream. What about like title-wise? What about like there's no precedent for this has never happened before, and the thumb says something like holding the DOJ in contempt, something like that? I think that would bring the hogs in. You know, that would bring the hogs in a little bit. People would be like, yum yum, give me my political infotainment, please. So it's pretty important. Yum yum. I'm linking it over. Not clickbaity enough, really? Like not for like. This is completely unprecedented. I feel like that's pretty, I mean, it's not clickbaity in the sense that it's inaccurate. That's an accurate reflection of you have to leave a little bit of room for interpretation to get people to watch the video. Is clickbait still effective? I'm sorry to say that for basically all YouTubers, the most effective titling scheme is to say something like this, like, I can't believe this happened. And then the thumb has to be you doing a Mr. Beast face. Now, we don't quite go that far, but it is reliable. The deportation situation is crazy. That one. Oh man, classic.